Welcome to the Talk of Thrones, and tonight we are bringing to you this video cast at New Year's Eve 2017. We're going on to 2018 tonight, and we're here to talk the throne, season 7, season 8, and a whole lot of other things. So my name is Bobby Tao.
I'm Laura Kerner-Kaplan.
Jim Ramsey.
And this is Talk of Thrones. So let's talk about season 8 production news. First of all, I just want to bring you guys news that I'm sure everybody wants to hear. When will I get to see the next episode of Game of Thrones? And it looks like we have official news on theindependence.com that Game of Thrones will not drop in 2018. It will not drop in 2018. I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to go through withdrawal.
It's going to be hard.
So does that make 2019?
2019.
Okay.
Some sources say maybe April-ish.
Okay.
So we'll have to go with that.
That'd be nice. Not to wait too long into 2019.
It'll be hard. We'll have to find something to watch, maybe like Westeros or something. At least. So I'm not getting paid by HBO. Let's talk some production news for season 8. We have officially been confirmed Miguel Sapochnik, one of the directors from some of your favorite episodes like Hard Home, Battle of the Bastard. He's coming back in season 6. For season 8, I'm sorry. Miguel Sapochnik, director of season 7, Battle of the Bastard, and season 4's Hard Home, will be confirmed coming back, you guys.
Very nice. Very nice. Some of the best of the series, so that'll be good to see.
Yes.
Hard hitters for the last season.
He's definitely good with the action and the battle scene, so we want to see what it's going to be like in the fight, in the wars to come.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of that, do you guys have a favorite episode that you have in mind in history that just, makes you think that this guys?
Oh dear, yeah, 7 years of seasons. That's hard to pick. Purple Wedding was pretty fun. I can't remember the exact name of the episode, but the demise of Joffrey was well deserved, and
The Lion and the Rose.
The Lion and good, yeah. That was a good one.
And that was not a good day for their family overall either, or to be a politician, right?
No.
Oh, no. I think Tyrion got it on that one, too. So.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
But I think Joffrey is probably the character people love to hate the most. Would you say, I don't know, something about him. I guess he was kind of an asshole to everyone.
He did a good job of being an asshole.
He's easy to hate that way, right?
Yeah.
And then just because he's born into being rich and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And just that look on his face and his hair. I think something about
His hair.
His hair.
The fans call him King Justin Bieber.
Yeah, King Justin Bieber. Yeah, I think there's something about that for sure.
Well, definitely in some of my favorite episodes were Hard Home and Battle of the Bastard, but another returning director and one of my favorite episode personally was The Red Wedding. And the director of that episode is also confirmed to come back for season 8. Fabian Wagner, director of The Red Wedding, has also been confirmed to return. So that's great news.
Very nice.
So does that just mean they commit to doing at least one episode, or?
Yeah, I think each episode has been scheduled for a director.
Okay.
Some might have 2. I think in this case, Miguel Sapochnik, he's doing episode 3 and 5, which is 5 is usually I think it's the second to last, isn't it? They're doing 6 episodes next season.
I think so, yeah.
6, so
I'm not
usually
100% on that, yeah.
Yeah, so 6.
I was thinking it was 6 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But either way, the episode before the last episode is very climatic. Usually Game of Thrones fashion.
Yes.
So that would be great. I can't wait for that. We'll have to go a year without it, though, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I want to ask you guys, what are your expectations for season 8? It can be anything, like dragons go out in space and coming back down and moving, Westeros, or Eartheros, and then the zombie goes under. Whatever. Prediction for season 8. Anybody have?
I'd be curious to get Laura's take on this.
Yeah. It's, the Battle of Ice and Fire will come. We have all the players set. It's just, where is it going to be? Who's going to be involved?
And just for those of us that don't know, what is the Battle of Ice and Fire? Is it the dragons, or is it the zombies, or?
Well, I think it's set up, and it's kind of all over the place in the book. You have the Long Night, you have Azor Ahai, the Last Hero. All these different myths are coming together in this this timeline, and it's definitely the Night's King versus the living. So I think it really is
the living versus the dead.
Living versus the dead is the battle of ice and fire. So that'll be. I think that'll be probably the biggest part.
And right now, the evil queen, is resisting joining the side of the living, right? Which
she is, yes.
I think that the queen resists everything, though.
Yeah.
Is that going to screw over the living, or is that just going to screw her over as far as not being part of a side that has more players?
I think being the history of Cersei, she's probably going to end up screwing herself over because everything she's done is backed herself, backfired.
She'll be selfish to the point of self-destruction.
Most likely.
Or she can't have it exactly the way she wants it. She'll sacrifice everything.
Oh yeah.
I'd have to agree. I think she'll do damage to the side of the living, but
I mean, just by making the side smaller, that's doing damage to the
just
side.
be for Cersei's personal benefit somehow.
Yeah.
And are they the farthest? Are they the front lines now, or are they the farthest back, or from where the zombies are invading?
Pretty far south in King's Landing.
Okay.
The north is going to take the brunt of this. Winterfell.
So Winterfell
is yep. So.
And it's already wintry anyway.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Winter has definitely come.
To
Winter's here.
And
it was about time it came to Winterfell.
Yeah.
They've been predicting it for a while now, since the first season, first episode they dropped it. So yeah, here's a little map of Westeros there on the screen there, James.
Okay.
King's Landing is.
And where are the White Walkers right now?
Right there, yeah.
Are the White Walkers right there?
The Whites, as far as we've last seen them, they're way up here by East Watch.
So they're just coming down from the wall.
So
way
they've
up
got
here.
quite a ways to go.
Yeah.
So Last Hearth is going to be probably the first one hit.
Last Hearth?
That's the historical home of
Umbers?
Umbers. Yep. Which is in the show is no longer a house. I forget who that was given to by John.
Was it one of the kids?
Ned Umber?
Oh, I think it was still
Umber?
an Umbers. Yeah, actually, you're right. It was
a controversy
the
with
child
that.
Umbers got to keep it. You are right. Sansa that wanted to give
So that'll
it
be
away.
the front lines now for the
This
White
is the
Walkers.
front line.
So that'll be the first board hit.
Yeah,
But
right there.
Winterfell, I'm sure, is where they'll actually.
Last Heart.
The show will take it.
So Last Heart was just like halfway between East Watch and Winterfell. Will they go through the Dreadfort to get to Winterfell? I don't know. Maybe they'll skip it because in fashion, season 7 fashion, everybody's like time machine traveling.
Yeah.
You can always skip ahead.
Teleport now.
6 years later, and it's like.
But the Army of the Dead, though, they move really slow. Like they can move fast when they want to, but like they took them the entire season.
They can, but the snows aren't going to stop them. They're not going to sleep. I think it's going to be should be a pretty quick march, but show-wise, probably not so much.
We were talking about when the spoiler alert, can't say I didn't warn you, but we were saying when the first dragon died, just where did they get that chain from? They just happened to have a mile-long chain right next to the line of White Walkers that they could, and then apparently they had 2 scuba diving White Walkers as well.
It's a Home Depot.
They're really good
north
at
of the wall.
knots with like shackles. What's that?
Home Depot, north of the wall.
Yeah, I mean everything's lighter underwater, but those are pretty big chains.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they just carry them around.
That must have been the zombie, that White Walker giant that did that.
So
yeah, because steelwork is not common north of the wall. All the wildlings either stole that all the steel swords they have. So
that's a good call too.
It doesn't make any
without
sense to have steel
forging that,
chains.
Yeah.
So my prediction for season 8 then would be like something will magically appear and we just wonder where the hell did that came from?
Like what?
Yeah, so that's my prediction for my safe prediction
Just
for season
something
8.
magically appear like a floating island in the sky. Or what?
Oh, that could happen in the
It could happen, yeah, at this point. It's really all over the place. But yeah, all the storylines have kind of converged at this point.
Is
There's
the
kind of
climax.
a set goal at this point.
Climax.
What happened to the fairies? When
The children?
Children? Yeah. What
Okay,
happened to them?
I like how you call them fairy. Yeah,
I'm
the
just trying
children.
to simplify it for, I have to generalize things.
Show-wise, I feel like they're done.
Was it just a historical note, or did they just save them once? Or
they were there at
because wasn't that part of the Hodor thing?
Yeah, they were at They were with the Three-Eyed Crow, and they were overrun by the White Walker, the Whites. So I feel that was the last of the children of the forest in that cave. I feel like that was. There could be others, but I don't think so.
That's the plot twist I'm waiting for. So they're gonna come back and help somehow.
Yeah,
So-
they started it.
Where is that cave that Bran was in for a long time north of the Wall? Which location would
I
you
don't
say?
know that as well.
Yeah. I've always wondered that, but I guess we'll look it up if somebody
So
wants
it's
to look it up.
probably north of the Fist of the First Men, I would
Oh,
say.
even further than that?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. So,
Because then the Fens, so that's
wow, they went really far out.
south of the Fens.
Oh, they were near the land of always winter.
No, I think they were south of where the Fens were.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to look on that, but we're sorry we don't have the facts. Also, yeah, I guess how far south do you guys think the war will go with the dead marching south? You know, like Winterfell is a pretty good strong point, but there's so many dead. You know, like there's going to be zombie Dothraki.
There will be, right?
There's got to be.
That'll be interesting, yeah, because I don't know how well Dothraki are going to fight in 5 feet of snow.
That's a good point.
That's how it
They
is.
probably don't give a shit because they're
Yeah.
dead. If
Well, when
dead,
they're
it's just-
dead, yes,
that'd
that
be
won't
crazy.
matter. But beforehand,
Yeah.
it's not going to go too well.
So visually, I would like to see that. That would be amazing too if you got like the snow coming down Winterfell battlefield and then the Dothraki riding horseback, never done before, as far north as they've been. That would be exciting. Yes. And
Are the sisters in charge of Winterfell right now? Now that they got rid of Littlefinger,
Sansa's been always in charge after Jon left. I
Yeah.
think
so
she's.
is she going to remain in charge, or is Jon going to go back to Winterfell to lead from there?
I think he'll come back and he'll be in charge again.
Okay.
But I feel like him and Daenerys, they're gonna leave at some point, and then Sansa will remain in charge. I guess we'll just see.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
she's-
Sansa still has a queen on her list. Who else?
no, you mean Arya.
Arya,
yeah.
sorry, Arya.
The queen.
Queen is
She
on
had
the
the
list.
Red Lady on the list. What's going to happen to the Red Lady?
did,
She's
yeah.
coming back.
Is she coming back?
She's going to come back. The actress has been confirmed to
Okay.
be in for season 8.
It'll be interesting to know where she goes, because last we saw she was on Dragonstone.
Oh,
Yes,
right.
going
And
back
so
to
Dragonstone's
She
pretty
was
far
talking to
south.
someone, right? The bald guy, right?
Yeah, she was
Varys.
with Varys.
She was going to go back to Volantis and do some business with the priest.
Okay.
Yeah,
She's got some deal going on, so it'll be interesting to see what the Red Lady comes back with in her
Did she
hand.
say something like she's going to come back to die and do one more thing or something?
Oh, that was the prophet that
Okay.
I think she told Varys that he was.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Because he was guessing kind of why she was there, and she was like, "I'll just tell you exactly why I'm here." Right?
That'll be interesting to see what
He's
the Red
cool.
Lady's
I would like to see more of him.
Yeah, they kind of certainly reduced his role as
I
of
like
late,
that.
him and Littlefinger's role.
Yeah, both were very underused in the last season, I felt. Varys, the spider, he should have been much more utilized by Daenerys. in the war
Right,
against
she should have gotten the news of where the Lannisters are moving, right? Instead of just surprise attack, on
Yeah.
Lannisport.
Yeah, I know he's without his little birds anymore. So I
Qyburn
think
has
he's-
them, right?
Yep, Qyburn has the little birds now. Varys is not doing so well without those anymore. Yeah.
No more network of little birds. Anything else would you guys just like to see dragons flying over King's Landing again? Think that's going to happen?
I
The
think
battle?
so. I think that's definitely going to happen. I'm curious if the two living dragons are going to somehow square off against the zombie dragon now, or
Right. John has got to be on one, right? John's got to be riding on Rhaegal.
Yep, I agree with that.
So it's going to be Jon and Daenerys on one dragon, and then
That's the popular theory.
on the other dragon is going to be the Night King.
Yep, on
Yeah.
Viserion.
Viserion, the dead dragon that spits out what? Spits out fire or laser?
Spits blue fire.
Spits blue fire.
Do you feel Jon's sword has done its destiny? Hasn't he tried to give it away, and different people have given it back, and
Longclaw?
yeah, has it really fulfilled its purpose, or is that going to find its way to kill the Night King or something like that?
It's hard to say because it's a Mormont sword, and you go back to the legend.
So it's
of,
not dragon glass.
Valyrian
It's
steel.
Valyrian steel.
Oh, okay.
The
So
ultimate.
that's, yeah, it's
You can kill walkers with
best
that.
with it,
Oh,
yeah.
you can.
The white walkers.
Okay.
The white you can just kill with dragon glass, right? But I don't know. Can you kill
I don't know,
just
yeah.
dragon glass with the white walker?
I think
I
Sam
thought
does.
that's the only way you can kill White Walker.
With the white dragon glass? You can do it with the. John's killed a couple. You remember Hardon
Okay.
where he smattered that walker with his long claw, Valyrian
Okay,
steel.
okay.
So we only know of a few that still have Valyrian steel swords. Jay
Right.
has
Yeah, there's very few.
Oathkeeper.
Yeah, which is ice melted down, which is the Stark sword. So
Yeah,
I feel
that's
those have a part to play in
In
the
the-
upcoming war.
Aren't the wolves still alive?
Dire
One or
wolves?
two?
Ghost has not been seen because he's becoming ghost. I guess.
Because they don't want to pay for this.
I think it's a lot of. They'd rather spend money on dragons,
Isn't
basically.
there at least one or two alive? And then
Yeah.
what's up with that scene where they showed the wolf come, and it was with a group of wolves, and they all ran away?
Areas, Nymeria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 2 wolves
What-
are left alive. Yeah.
So that was, isn't that foreshadowing for something that's going to be coming up? Because otherwise, why they show the dire wolf?
They could actually, have a direwolf come in Ex Machina style and just tear off the zombie. Of course, you could leave it open for that, right?
Yeah.
I think the book there's a lot higher chance of that happening.
Yeah, that's true. HBO said that the budget was spent for
I feel
better
like we're going to
looking.
need like hot lava or something.
Yeah.
Something from like Lord of the Rings. Like,
We could vote for that. Comment if
Eagles
you want to
coming
see
in,
that.
yeah, it'd be like the Eagles.
Yeah.
What else?
Dire wolves. That's my prediction.
Direwolf. I think actually to answer your question, James, I thought like there was a lot of talking in it that the scene with Nymeria was kind of like a flashback to when Arya was a child in season
Oh,
1,
okay.
where Ned was saying something to her about she's going to be a future lady of some castle.
So that wasn't at all recent.
No, that was season 1 when they first arrived to the King's Landing and she was training as a water dancer
Okay.
with Sirio Ferrer.
Yeah, that's one thing about it. They'll go 4 seasons or 6 seasons without talking about someone else, bring it right back.
Mhm.
Like it never left. It's
Very
like
much
sometimes
so.
it's like, wow.
Well, I mean, I guess
Who were you
book-wise
again?
and show-wise is very different.
It is
from-
very different. But yeah, maybe it's Arya, leaving her kind of ruthless, still ruthless, but kind of that assassin
Yes.
killer behind
Okay,
as the
well,
wolf turns away.
Do you think her character is like influenced by like Assassin's Creed, like that kind of stuff?
I don't know.
Oh,
I've
Yeah,
never
like
played
which
those
came
games,
first?
Yeah.
Which
the
came
Order of the Assassin. I mean, originally I think believed the term the assassin was there. I don't quote me on this, but somewhere in the Middle East, it was the first original group that were a hired killer, and they were called the assassin.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's where assassins are based on. So
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, don't write me any hate mail, right? But that's something like that.
All hate mail directed
Yeah.
to Bobby.
It's not like I never gotten them. So on that note of Arya being a badass, let's talk about last season now. We're just gonna wrap up a few things about season 7. So I want to talk about the first episode of season 7, you guys. Just briefly, we're gonna go through the events that started season 7. So going from Arya being badass, we first see Arya as Walder Frey. Well, we see Walder Frey first. It was a cold open, and Walder Frey was giving a toast to the Frey men. And again, sorry to say this, but spoiler alert for those of you who haven't seen season 7. Maybe this will be a good. Somebody hasn't seen season 7 yet. Some of you guys, so be warned. So Walder is giving a toast to the Frey men. And then it was revealed, I think she said something, and one of my favorite lines that she said when she was doing the toast is that you should have ripped them all out, root and stem, leave one wolf alive, and the sheep are never safe. And then
She's
you
talking
realize,
about herself.
yeah, you realize right then, you're like, Walder Frey?
Yeah.
You know what's going on, right? She's come back from Bravo's train at the assassin. And she's wearing Walder Frey's face. And then she says, tell them the North remembers. Tell them winters came for House Frey or something like that.
Yeah.
Very powerful. And then
To the one remaining girl, right?
the girls. I think she left all the women alive. She just took out
She
all.
did. Yep. all the Fremen who were the ones responsible for the Red Wedding.
Yeah.
So almost all of them had a part to play, from as small as getting, Great John drunk to, actually fighting.
The deal was already done. I mean,
It really started off with a bang with that one, I thought. I thought that was a great way to just jump into the action and start off with a really good revenge, and then the tide starts turning that way. And it's like,
It's a good way to
chalk
go
one up
about
for
it.
Arya.
Because I think initially the
And then Nora.
next book was meant to be A Time for Wolves. So that's a good way to bring that
Time for
in.
Wolves.
Arya really kind of laying it down is definitely A Time for Wolves.
Well, you can see it at the last frame of that scene. You guys see it, but she's walking away, and all these dead Freys are laying down, and then she's smiling. She's come a long way. She's got the darkness in her.
Yep.
She just murdered an entire family. Their house, took out their whole house line, and she's walking away with a little smile. But I mean, why not? I would smile if I were her too. She's gone through some stuff that most of us, not most of us, don't live in Westeros.
No, no, thank you.
Even for Westeros, it was pretty messed up.
Yeah, that's a lot of people to take out. House Frey is not a small house for sure.
So season 1 started with the cold open of Arya wiping out the entire Frey, which was very pleasing if you're a fan of the Starks. So then after the opening credit, we see the Army of the Dead moving south, and it's White Giants. We got White Giants confirmed.
That was great to see. That's going to make
They
it
were
all the
just-
more interesting.
They were just wildlings before, right?
The Giants.
Yeah.
They formed with the Wildling. I think they were their own species, their own race
they're
up there.
race, yep.
But they were originally squaring off at the wall, right?
Yes, so the King of the North, the King Beyond the Wall did have giants in his army.
Yeah.
They're pretty good with repeating stuff though. Jon Snow. Snow. So yeah, confirmed White Giants. What else do we have next? White spiders. Who knows?
We did get a white polar bear.
We did. Yeah, it was again spoiler, but yeah, that polar
Sorry.
bear. No, we've been like spoiling the shit.
Oh,
out
yeah,
of it.
that's very true.
No need to apologize, Laura.
Ice spiders would have been very fun though as well.
Who knows?
Yeah,
Maybe
there's time.
that's why they're not there in 2018 because all the budgets are going to zombie spiders.
Yep.
So then our next scene in season 1, episode 1, season 7, episode 1, Dragonstone, Bran arrives at the Castle Black. So he arrives at the wall at Castle Black. And there you see Ed is letting Bran in, and Bran is now like, I see stuff.
Yeah.
Is Bran the most annoying character?
I mean,
He is to me.
you don't like Bran?
I don't like Bran.
What, don't you need that Ex Machina thing too? Of like, just I could see anything, I could be anywhere.
Something about how now he's lost all empathy, but he sees visions and therefore it's like all inevitable. There's just something overall annoying about the character. I don't know.
Yes, okay, so we have a guy here that wishes Bran didn't make it to the wall.
I feel like he's kind of learning to be empathetic again, learning to be more human. I hope so, because that'd be very sad if he completely is lost within his
'cause
visions.
He was very cold about like giving away the sword and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He's also somebody that's
Sure.
been through some stuff, like all of the Stark's children. But in a weird way, like, how would you be as a person? How would you be connected to now and emotions if you are given to that power where you can see everything?
Yeah.
You wouldn't be as connected as the rest of them, right? So there's my little defense for Bran.
But he's like the least cool shaman. You know what I mean?
The internet is called Bran the Internet.
Wait, what?
The internet's called Bran the Internet. Because, he's plugged into everything.
And he lost Summer, which
Yeah,
I
it's
think
died. Another
probably it should have. It isn't showing in the show, and he's not speaking about it. But I think that would affect his character greatly.
That's true.
Because in the book, he had a lot of relationship with Summer, and it took him. He was the last one to name his direwolf, right?
He
I
was,
remember-
Yep, it took him a while, and that direwolf stood by his bed until he woke up, and it defended him when that assassin came in the first season, in the first book.
Well, Bran's kind of a downer, so we'll move on. We'll move back to
That's
Winterfell.
my point.
Yeah, never Bran.
Oh, sorry, Bran. You were pushed out.
It's like you feel like the whole story is about him in some ways, or if you can see everything, but then it's also not about him at all. And
Well, it wasn't his fault that he got pushed out the window for witnessing ancestral.
Damaging.
That was a long fall.
Yeah, and then there's another thing that's good about, speaking of Bran and Jaime and Arya, this is a good thing that we all enjoy about Game of Thrones is the character arc. Like character starts in the beginning as somebody else, and even by the middle of the book, you can totally see that they're, based on what's happened to them, is changed. So, this makes for good reading.
Definitely.
So we're back to Winterfell and Winterfell politics. Winterfell politics, you guys. John is telling everybody they need to go to mine dragon glass, train everybody for the war to come with the dead. And, they have their dispute, but they're going to be like, yeah, we'll train everybody, blah, blah, blah. And then John and Arya has this little disagreement on how they should handle the Umbers and the Karstark, the traitors of the north.
Mm-hmm.
That part kind of was just weird, right? To me,
It was, because you could really see where they were both coming from. So, I mean, they're children. You want to keep the houses as they are, not too much upheaval, but you should reward loyal houses. The Umbers were not.
So you see both sides.
Hard time believing, and then
That's true.
The Karstarks, of course, were not. But
That John Uma, I just want to punch him in the face. When he took the direwolf in with the Recon's direwolf.
oh yes, poor Shaggy Dog.
Shaggy Dog, yes. I'm like, maybe this is the setup. Like they're setting up Ramsay, but I just want to punch him in his face. But anyway,
The Umbers,
So you see both sides to this. You see why Sansa is disagreeing with Jon, and you can't reward these traitors, bastards. What do you think, James? Who are you siding on that? Jon?
I'm trying to remember that part.
Yeah, it's just Winterfell politics. I feel like season 7 was so much of it. It's just kind of made me forgot a lot.
There's a lot going on that season.
Winterfell
so
politics.
It's hard, yeah.
So they got a little disagreement, but they ended up working it out. Sansa was like, Joffrey didn't listen either, and you didn't listen. And Jon's like, you're comparing me to Joffrey. And Sansa's like, no, I'm not comparing you to Joffrey. Why did you block off Joffrey?
Yeah, Sansa has a lot of more inner political mind at this point. She's been around Littlefinger, was around Cersei. Cersei not necessarily the best teacher, but
but she's somehow inspired by her in a creepy way, like John mentioned. You're almost admiring her, he says to Sansa. And then, I love the transition. It goes from talking about, I think she sent Winterfell a raven, right? Asking for their bending of the knee, otherwise they'll be declared enemy of the crown.
Yep.
Then it cuts to the scene in the King's Landing in the Red Keep with Jaime and the Queen, and she's standing on this beautiful artwork somewhere in the Red Keep.
Yeah.
And,
the map of the world, or
the map of Westeros. Yeah, this is a beautiful shot.
Impressive production detail. I thought from the beginning. Like, did they show him painting that as
Yeah.
well? Yeah.
Yeah, they did. I saw this
She's
shot.
creating her own Rome, kind of.
Yeah, and then they were talking about the different houses, because you remember when she was saying enemies to the north, enemies to the south, enemies everywhere. She is walking through them as it is, and also, there was another scene when the neck part of Westeros, and they were talking about. So I don't know, James, if you heard about the prophet of Cersei, but I'm sure Laura, you can tell James about the prophet of the Valonqar prophecy.
So when Cersei was very young, her and a friend went to visit Maggie the Frog, and she was a witch. And Cersei was told that she would not marry the prince, but she would marry the king. And he would have 6 and 10 children, and she would have 3. Gold would be their hair, and gold would be their shrouds. So this kind of foreshadows. I enjoyed the books a lot. When all her joy has turned, to ash, the Valonqar would choke the life from her. And Valonqar is Valyrian for little brother. Little brother. So people have thought
Jaime,
who was born after her, and then Tyrion. But Valyrian is gender neutral. So people have often thought maybe Arya She's
So
the little sister, so it could really be female or male.
So some little, like a little brother or a little sister could choke the life out of her neck, right? Choke. And so this part of Westeros is known as the neck. And then they were talking, when Jamie was talking, and she was standing at the neck when this was happening.
That's good
That was just
foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing, Game of Thrones style. So I just thought I brought that up.
I think Jamie would be the most suitable for this. Yeah.
People talk about history repeating itself. The Mad King went crazy and wanted to burn the city down with wildfire, and he had to take him out. So
yeah, she will most likely say burn them all at some point. I expect, yeah.
And then our next scene, we have Euron Greyjoy arriving to King's Landing with the Armada. Look at that! I just love that. That's the silent. That is a badass ship.
Yeah, Euron is a very kind of interesting character. It's definitely a combination in the book of Victorian and Euron. So it was interesting to see him kind of just stride into King's Landing. And
So I guess for me, the most disappointing part about season 7, as far as expectation, is that Euron was the actor. I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly what the actor's name. I'm probably going to get hit.
Yeah.
But he was been known to interview. He said that if you hate Ramsay, they're going to love me. And you're thinking he's going to be even more sickly than Ramsay is. How are you going to beat Joffrey? Then Ramsay beats Joffrey, and you're like, this guy's going to beat Ramsay. And he was kind of underplayed a little bit season 7, but anyway.
He's more just prone to aggression and wants glory so he can get Cersei, right? Because it's something that he can't have.
Yeah.
He's got two good hands to offer.
Yeah.
Which is where we lead. So Euron goes to propose to the queen with his armada, and he's got two good hands. I love that dialogue between him and Jamie in this episode where he's just pulling out all this insulting Jamie.
Trying to win her.
Which is funny. I enjoy this guy, though. He's a very entertaining character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not quite the villain of Ramsay or Joffrey, but still entertaining. He's got a season to really play it up.
Yes.
I don't know. That's going to be hard.
But you may mention Victorion, even him, and they don't talk about him in the show, but in the book, Victorion is even more messed up because of Euron, who's so sickly that Victorion is like the thought of Euron makes him just kind of like, and he's a grown man. He's like pissing his pants, scared of the name Euron. So that's the difference between the book and the show. But
it is, yeah.
Next we have, you guys remember the...
That was so gross.
We can play it. We can ruin your imagination. But it's New Year. We're going to... It's literally a shitty position Samwell finds himself in Old Town at the Citadel. What did you guys think of that little montage?
I thought that was great. Funny.
I wanted to change the channel.
I think I counted. It was literally... a minute and 40 seconds of just...
It's not your normal montage.
It's a long one.
Yeah.
But I guess it's meant to put us in the shoe of Samwell Tarly and the shit that he's got to go through in order to save mankind and obtain the book. So at the end of this grows out montage, I think he was able to sneak in. It's been a while since I've seen this, so don't quote me on this, but I think he actually stole a book from with Citadel, but maybe that's another scene inside of this episode. But
so the shit montage goes like a minute and 45 seconds?
Oh, dear.
Yes, sir. That's a long shit montage.
Whoever created that, mad props.
Highly creative, I would say.
That was entertaining.
So the next scene, I just love this right here, is Tormund Giantsbane back in the north in Winterfell, and he's just loving Brienne. Brienne can't do no wrong in the eye of this man because that's like his perfect match. They're such a cute couple.
She's tough, right?
They're imagine their baby.
Yeah. He is for sure.
So we see Winterfell, Brienne practicing with Podrick, and then next we got Sansa, Lady of Winterfell, watching from above, and behind her, who's whispering to her? Of course, we got the little season 7 wall ornament, Mr. Peter Baelish.
Peter Baelish, yeah.
Little finger.
I just can't believe he did not ditch out the moment he could. Once Jon arrived, he should have gotten out of there. That's the Peter Baelish I knew. Yeah.
Right?
So maybe this is what happened. Like nobody's able to corrupt Lilith Baelish. Not even like Lysa Arryn, who's really in love with him, and she's got the veil, and he's not even in love with her. But the beauty of Catelyn and now Catelyn's daughter, I think that's what probably drove him a little bit more slow in his process because he's in love.
Yeah.
He really wants this lady to be sitting next to him in the game of, is that his endgame, the throne? No? Am I foolish to think that's his
I
endgame?
believe so. Yeah, chaos is indeed a ladder, and he meant to climb that ladder to the Iron Throne with Sansa as his queen. But I still, he must just be getting slow because
He did not move out of there.
Yeah, he did not. He did not leave.
He's still standing there. He's just leaning against the wall, whispering to Sansa.
Yeah.
Everyone is your enemy.
Especially the moment Bran was there.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, that's
the hell out.
That's a little bit later when Bran makes it back to Winterfell. But let's go back to our timeline of that first episode of season 7. We have a little cameo. I just thought I'd like to bring up this little scene of Lannister's soldier and this guy in the middle, this famous singer. What's his name? This cameo, Ed Sheeran.
Oh, I didn't know he was in there.
Oh, Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran, yeah.
What is he?
That was random. Yeah.
What is he?
He's a Lannister soldier. He's one of
really?
Lannister's. So Arya was riding in Riverland, and she hears singing, and it was actually singing from Ed,
That is hilarious.
who's actually, I guess, for fact, he's Macy Williams, the actress who plays Arya, is a big fan of his, so they got him on the show.
okay.
Oh, that's fun.
So I thought in that scene there was going to be some bloodshed with Lannister soldiers. They just sat down, and what I remember actually, you guys know the scene, right? What I'm talking about, where she's in the Riverland and she ran into the. There was an episode when she was going with the Hound, and she was also in the Riverland, but at that time she ran into Stark soldier, and they had food, and she was really hungry, and the North soldier, who were her soldiers, didn't give it to him, so the Hound had to kill him. I think she took one out too, and the Hound was like, "Was that your first time killing a man?" And she's like, "For killing a man, yes, because you know that."
I remember that part.
So, in despite of that, now she runs to the enemy troops, and they were very hostile. I mean, they welcomed her with open arms. They were giving her food, and this is the enemy troop. So I just kind of thought I brought that up, but I expected a bloodshed.
Yeah. Once she took their bread and salt, she couldn't kill him. Guessed right at that point. Came into effect.
So the next scene, we have the Hound, Beric Dondarrion, Thoros Amir, and the Brotherhood. They're headed north. They're arriving at Riverland, and I think the Lord of Light has told them to go north. What do you know about this before? Because when I first saw this episode, the last time we saw the Hound was last year when he met up with the Brotherhood, right?
I believe so. Yep. He was thought deceased after he left Arya, and now he's back and with the Brotherhood Without Banners.
And here's the scene that just played a scene for you guys.
Bad night to be outdoors.
You've got real powerful magic to figure that out. Did the Lord of Light whisper that in your ear? It's snowing, Thoros. It's windy. It's gonna be a cold night.
You're a grouchy old bear, aren't you, Clegane?
I really enjoyed that dialogue. It's kind of hilarious because the Hound was just asking them if the Lord of Light told them about it, and they're riding through the thick of the snow going north, and the Lord of Light told you that. I think the Hound one of my favorite character again. What do you guys think of the Hound and his character arc?
Yeah, he's kind of had a redemptive cycle, and it's just kind of fun to watch to see him, just not really give a hoot about anybody.
Really, Arya brought out his softer side, really, right?
That's very true,
from there, it's just a matter of time, I feel like, before he faces off against his brother, right? Because based on their childhood struggle and all that.
It seems like lately that's the only person that Arya has brought out the lighter side of. But yeah, I really did enjoy earlier in the season when he was traveling with Arya, and this kind of like between both of them, they were learning something. Like Arya was learning from the Hound of how to live, and a lot of it was how she is as a character. It was had to do with this trip she had with the Hound in the earlier seasons.
And it's definitely like the odd couple. Like they're so different, and yet they're trying to influence each other a little bit based on their own life experience. And
speaking of earlier seasons, so they arrived at this house. And then they saw a body of a father and daughter, which goes back to the earlier season when the Hound robbed the father and took his gold, and Arya was super upset with him, and I think she wanted him dead. She said something like, "You're the worst human being in the world."
So when was that? When was the last time that they were at that house?
I actually had a side-by-side shot, and this is what I love about the Game of Thrones world, and even in TV show, they kept it consistent. So here's a side-by-side shot of that episode was in season 4, episode 3, when the Hound robs that family. The episode is called Breaker of Chains. Here's a shot of the Hound walking out after he just robbed the father, and there they are riding back to the same house. And this time they found the father and daughter. I'm sorry. They're dead. It looks like there was a knife, and the father had stabbed his daughter to keep her from being starved to death, I guess.
I think that's how. Yeah, it's really interesting, the consistency from season 4 to season 7.
Yeah,
that's some consistency right there.
So in other words, they had a whole story that was implied based on just how they were found.
Yeah, because after that,
basically after he took their money, like a bag of.
He took their money, and basically, in that world, especially now that winter's here, basically, if you don't have money and your land is no good, you're pretty much good as dead.
They couldn't get the right sheep or crops or whatever and survive.
Yeah, and I think even though the Hound did that, I think the way Arya reacted might have had something to do with how he is now. And then there's a scene later on in which he actually took the bodies and he gave them a proper burial. And there you see the Hound's sentimental side for the first time, or not really the first time, because you actually see it throughout. Like in the first season when he saved Sansa. Sansa's his little bird, He had a softer side for the Stark sisters.
He does like the Stark ladies.
So then they had this really interesting discussion the Hound did with Beric, where he asks, why did this little girl have to die, and why does a CUNT like you get to live? And he's like, if the Lord means for you to die, then you die, but the Lord means for me to do something for the war to come. So. And then they had the Hound look into the fire, and he sees the vision. This mountain shape of an arrowhead, and the dead are marching. So then after that, we find the Hound buries the family, and Thoreau comes out there, and they had another interesting dialogue between them. And then we go back to Old Town in the Citadel, where Sam has stolen a book, and he's discovered that there are dragon class on Dragonstone.
Sam has to be one of my favorite characters. He's just very entertaining. He's one of those characters that seems like he's pretty much 100% protagonist or 100% good, even if he has to cut some corners here and there with tradition. But he's 100% well intentioned. He doesn't want harm to fall anyone. He just wants justice and knowledge. And isn't he sort of the side of the good? Wouldn't you say, like the spirit?
Yeah, I think characters like Sam and Tyrion and Bran and Daenerys, you have kind of a chubbier guy who's not really in shape, but he's pretty well with his intellect. And then you have Tyrion again, a short man who should not survive in this world. And then you have Bran, a cripple, and then you have Daenerys, a woman in this patriarchal society. And all of these characters, even Jon, even though Jon probably has the most fighting skill amongst them, his status as a bastard is not and living in Westeros, I guess you don't want to be a bastard.
No.
Or anywhere else.
But then again, that's how you lead armies, right?
Yeah, that's how you could become Lord Commander and then King of the North, and then, you go in the caves with the ladies. Jon Snow. But yeah, you're right. I like that the fact that you brought up about Sam. He's in this story, in this world of kind of conniving, twisting, backstabbing. Sam is probably one of your characters that is truly good.
And wouldn't you say that's straight out of the history in terms of medieval times and book burning and books being hidden by the Chang, and the fact that there's all these texts that he can only access certain ones based on the powers that be while he's there, right? And he has to.
You have to be a maester and a grand maester, or is it just maester? Or
yeah, there's a few grand maesters, but just a maester to be at the Citadel to learn.
What does it take to be a a maester? Because we obviously saw early in that episode, in that montage, the shitty montage.
Apparently, that's what it takes. So they have to forge their chain. So there's a lot of trainees that are there to learn, medicine is a specific chain. And then there's like magic and stuff that's, not true magic, but I think that's the Valyrian steel one. And it's just this chain you have to forge before you can go out and be a maester and be given to a...
So what is the history
A house.
behind the Citadel and the Maester? Why did they started putting behind magic, and they started discouraging the practice of magic, or even didn't acknowledging its existence in the world?
I really couldn't say. So I'm trying to remember when the Maesters began, and I can't quite recall, but they have these glass candles, and the last test before you become a Maester is to spend the night alone in the room with the glass candle, and if it lights, then but it never does, so it's kind of a lesson in futility, is that there's some things we'll never know.
I guess they're kind of like in modern world, it'd be like the men of science, where science really is hard to like acknowledge the phenomenon, other out there.
For sure, because the Maesters aren't terribly pleased with the dragons returning. But I do see where they're coming from, where, without this knowledge, especially Westeros, it would be, they'd be back to, hitting each other with sticks, and that'd be about it. They're not much above it. Without the books and all the learning that the Citadel have, they've withstood the test of time, and it's the reason they're not afraid of the army of the dead. They just don't believe in it, and they think
they just whip out their sticks and beat them.
Yeah, they'll just whip out their sticks.
With their knowledge stick.
With their knowledge sticks, yes.
I cast you back to the land of always winter with my knowledge stick.
At a certain point, it becomes chaos.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, good morning, Westeros.
On that note, Ser Jorah, we see is in the Citadel now. He's made his way there, and then he asks Sam, has the Dragon Queen arrived yet? And out of everybody he has to run into at the Citadel, he runs into Sam. We see Ser Jorah, Dragon Scale, or what? Grayscale. I'm sorry. It looks like Dragon Scale, but maybe somebody was messing around with a dragon, and then they got. You never know, Westeros.
Yeah.
Anyway. Then it transitioned into Daenerys arriving to Westeros. Her and the rest of the fleet, the Dothraki, the Unsullied, Tyrion, Varys, Missandei, they have beautiful, and the dragons. They're now in Westeros. She's made it back to her family's long-time stronghold, Dragonstone, and then we get to finally see Dragonstone. And I remember talking to you about this, Laura, what we were looking forward to season 7, and you really were excited about Dragonstone. So
I was, because it was they did a very good job with the homecoming, to have the dragons flying above the ancient seat of the Targaryens. It was just really great to see her return to her home. That is definitely her home.
How long had that castle, or that, what would that be called? How long had that been vacant? Was it since the Mad King, since her dad had left?
So it was actually given to Stannis.
Okay.
Once Robert took the throne, really happy to be giving a rock in the middle of the ocean when he could have had Storm's End. So
gave Storm's End to the little brother.
He did. Yep, Renly.
So
got
what was?
Storm's
I think
End.
it was. I remember there was something when he put down the Ironborn Rebellion. This is the rebellion in which Theon was taken by the Starks as a, what do you call it? As a hostage? As
a ward.
A ward,
a nice
yeah.
way of putting it, as a ward. Yes.
So I think that was after Stannis did something kind of like a plunder, but he proved himself. He ended up making it to the Ironborn and defeating them. But Stannis was a great commander and a great military mind. But I don't remember what exactly happened. But I think that he did plunder. He had the Ironborn attacked his fleet, and a lot of it was destroyed. And I think that because of that, Robert gives him Dragonstone instead of Storm's End.
For sure. Stannis definitely lived up to the name the Manus, I feel, withstanding the Targaryen siege of Storm's End. And then, as you said, bringing a fleet and invading Pike and the Ironborn.
Well, It was a very emotional scene. I mean, I liked how they shot that. It was just Daenerys, and there was no dialogue. The rest of her crew, her entourage, just slowly walked behind her as she lands again, and her conquest is truly begin now that she's back into Westeros. And there you see. I mean, I really like the location that they found where they shot this scene, because originally when I first watched it, there was a few dragons, looked like it was dragon texture, dragon skin,
For sure.
or something. But they actually found a real location in northern Spain, somewhere in called Barrica. It's up in the Bay of Biscayne where they shot a lot of Dragonstone, and so here is a picture of what that actually looks like. And I was just wow! I really at first I really thought it was a set that was created.
I agree with you, and it's always hard for me to tell exactly what production elements they added in terms of do they make the sky look cooler, or like I felt like Lord of Rings and stuff, the sky was a lot darker and more dramatic than it would have been in real life, and it kind of added a whole feel to it. But I would say that I really agree with you that location just stood out right away as like high production value, very believable as this lost kingdom, and like you said, the cliffs, and just everything about it. It seemed remote, and yet it was believable that Daenerys was coming back home. And I agree with you too. I really like the way it was filmed, like just the quiet mood and a lot of shots from far away.
Yeah, wide, very wide.
Emphasizing the scenery with the figure being smaller. And even shots later, I think when Daenerys and Jon are together and stuff, a lot of times it'll start with a wider shot and really establish the scene setter, and then jump into the more personal dialogue stuff.
Yeah, that's one thing that I really love about the show, and I'm not trying to stroke HBO's, but from Laura, you're a big fan of the World of Ice and Fire. As far as what they represent, location-wise, scouting for locations and fitting it in with the way that George has described each location in the book, I would have imagined this. I mean, like let's say I read this book about when it first came out, and just think about this would be an actual TV production. I'm like, get out of here.
For sure. I've been very impressed with the locations they've thrown together for this show. Dragonstone in particular, it's not described as the nicest of places. It is just kind of a speck of land in the middle of the narrow sea there. So while it is very beautiful how it's shot, it still has a very kind of stark beauty to it, as opposed to High Garden or even Dorne is much more your typical beauty.
It's more like the tropic.
Yes.
Yeah. So the steps to up to the castles were filmed in the Bay of Biscayne in northern Spain as well, not too far from where those rock formations are. So all of these locations in northern Spain. And then at the last thing we see in this episode is Daenerys standing in front of the map, ready to conquer, ready to do her thing. She brought the army over to Westeros, and then she tells Tyrion, "Shall we begin?" With not as deep a voice.
And at that point, is Tyrion kind of advising her to be cautious with her strategy, or is he just kind of being her yes man at that point?
I think in this episode, well, it ends like this, but yeah, I think that might be the next episode. I remember. Actually, it is the next episode where he talks about how he was admired. He heard about the story of Daenerys being born on a stormy night right on Dragonstone, and then they break into their dialogue, which we'll get into when we review the next episode. But Tyrion's was that's the way he is now. He's playing it safe.
Yep, I'd have to agree. But I did enjoy. It's kind of a good mirror of her ancestor, starting from Dragonstone, Aegon and his two sisters, and their conquest of the Seven Kingdoms. So it's a good way to start it.
Yeah, I did enjoy this episode. For me, there was a few episodes I had issues with, and we'll talk about it later on. But as far as the opening episode for season 7, and then especially that cold open with Arya murdering the entire Frey, taking them out.
That was a great opening. That was a great
great.
scene. Usually you see stuff that dramatic in the final scene in a season, where it's a cliffhanger for the next season. To start out with that much action, I thought was just great.
Yeah, it was a good, it's like we've been waiting for this a long time, and I don't know if there's any, like, there's Stark fans, and there's even like Lannister fans, and are there any Frey fans?
I don't think so.
It's kind of hard to be a Frey fan.
Yeah.
We cheer for those guys,
Yeah.
those
Well,
murderers.
they helped them once, right? Weren't they a strategic point at one point?
They were,
Earlier?
They
yeah.
helped them cross.
They have the
During the
twins,
war.
which
Yeah.
is a glorified bridge, essentially. But Rob broke his oath, and
Yeah.
here we are.
But yeah, so I remember just finishing this episode, and I was just so psyched for season 7, and that's all we have for this episode. You guys have any thoughts about this episode we just reviewed? Season 7, episode 1.
I thought it was just kind of like she's back.
She's back.
It's kind of like Daenerys. Return to Daenerys, and like, what is she gonna do? Is she gonna send the dragons right away, or which army is she gonna send?
That would be cool if Tyrion jumps out and like, she's back, and I'm back to you.
Because at this point, we really had no idea what her strategy was going to be. There were dragons we were going to come into play. She's got the whole Dothraki on her side, and Unsullied, and the Iron Fleet at this point.
So all the characters are in peace. Everybody's on the same land now. Before there was a couple of continents. And speaking of that subject, I think that's probably another reason why for season 8 we're going to have to wait for so long for the next season to drop. Is thinking about back then, they have like 2 locations: Daenerys in Easter. I was going to say Essos.
Essos, yep.
And then everybody else in Westeros. So have like different team. What do you call it? I forgot my
location teams.
Location teams that were in charge of filming simultaneously, and then the production, is going on at the same time. Where now you have all your pieces in one board, so you have to wait a little bit longer for shooting. So it should be worth the wait. But
Yes.
And
very
Daenerys has
excited.
been through a lot. I mean, essentially, Daenerys has been trying to get the throne the whole time, but she hasn't even been here, right? I mean,
I think she was born on Storm's End, but they
she's been across the water though for a while.
No, she
right?
probably doesn't
because
remember,
the Dothraki had never
Yeah,
crossed over.
She doesn't remember Dragonstone. But yeah, she lived all over Essos for quite a while. First we saw her, they were in Pentos with her brother Viserys, and she was essentially sold
Right.
to Khal Drogo. So to come, from being sold to potential queen of all 7
With
kingdoms.
multiple armies.
Yep.
I remember in the
That's quite
book,
climb.
she talked a lot about what's that tree that she had in her window, her house in Pintos.
Oh, the lemon tree.
The lemon tree, yes.
There's a lot of stipulation about where that actually was. 'Cause
Was it in her mind?
She
It
thought
was-
it was in Bravos, but Bravos is far too north to
Yeah.
grow lemons. So people just don't quite know where that was.
Well, I thought they were in Pentos the whole time before that.
They had to go around a lot because Viserys
true.
was quite convinced there were assassins on their tails, and he wasn't completely wrong about that.
Well, I think for me, when I read the book, the earlier chapters with Daenerys, and you get a little, in the show is a little bit because you just see her getting married to Khal Drogo, but you don't really see the inner dialogues or her personal dialogue with her brother. Really, as much as an ass as Viserys is, that was the one guy that kept her alive for many years too. They were very
did,
close.
yep.
So I think in the book, it made me felt a lot more for Daenerys in the earlier years. Of course, the last book hasn't dropped yet, so we don't know how she is in the book as far as her character. But she's not even in Westeros in the book, right? She's still in
Yep,
Essos.
she's still in Essos, just being found by the Dothraki at that point. So quite a few episodes back
Yeah.
is where the book ended.
Yeah, so I think for me that's my biggest impression of Daenerys is just what she's gone through, and in a way I'm almost like giving Viserion benefit of the doubt, but he deserved the gold crown. So
He should have just kept his mouth shut.
well,
Daenerys is a whole conversation in and of it herself, just to analyze. A lot of characters traditionally in that role will be victims, but instead she's kind of the ultimate power hungry, successful woman.
do you think she's as power hungry as she's has got this notion to set things right, or it could be the same?
Or just you could call it successful too, depending on your point of view, but she's just, she's literally, gone from inside a flaming building naked to owning multiple armies, having these multiple armies that she can control and send wherever she wants at any time, that essentially have a choice. The one army the Unsullied could actually walk away at any moment, but she found a way for them to have sort of almost blind loyalty towards her.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. She did lost them.
For being the breaker of chains, Mother of Dragons. That intro was just awesome the one time when her long intro, when she had like her 6 titles or whatever.
Oh, yep.
You know what I'm saying? But, it's like, I like seeing a character like that that's not just a victim and something bad happened to her, so therefore she's going to complain about it for the rest of her life. Instead, she's very proactive in determining her own destiny after the bad stuff happened to her.
Yeah, and really, again, like I said, her character, Tyrion's character, Bran's character, all those who are still alive really should be alive. And then Sansa, too, Arya, little girl, even Sansa, I guess. On that note, I will wrap this one up for episode 1 of season 7, and we would love it to be able to review the next episode again one of these times, and then we can make this an ongoing thing. This is, again, our first crack at the Talk of Thrones. My name is Bobby Tao again, and I thank you guys for being here. Laura, James, you guys add really great input. You guys have anything else to look forward to? Or
no, I'm looking forward to the next episode, Bobby. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.